Good morning, everyone. My name is Zia, and I make videos about full-time van life. Today, the day you're watching this, is February 24th, and I'm about to wrap up the final leg of my On a Wing and a Prayer road trip down to Quartzite, Arizona. I had so much lovely footage of my trip back, which I have unfortunately deleted permanently. I didn't realize that it hadn't backed up, and I've tried everything I can. I can't seem to get any of the footage back. I have a few photos that I can pop in here and there, but all that incredible footage is gone. The title of this video is Plan A, Plan B, and Plan C. Plan A was to go to Quartzite, go to the WRTR, the RTR, Schoolypalooza, meet some people, and hopefully have an interview on somebody's YouTube channel. Really hoped it would be Bob Wells, and thought there was a pretty slim chance that that would happen, but it happened, and it is posted now. You can go over to Cheap RV Living and see his interview with me on that channel. It was so exciting. He's a lovely, lovely guy, and yeah, go and check that out. And to all of the new subscribers who have come to my channel from watching Bob's channel, thank you so much for subscribing. It makes a huge difference to me. So please remember, everyone, if you're liking the videos, do give me a thumbs up, make a comment, let's have conversations. This is a community, an online community, and please subscribe if you haven't. So that all happened, and then from Quartzite I had planned on traveling further east. I wanted to go and meet a friend in Tucson. I was going to go to White Sands National Park, maybe go up to Santa Fe again. I love Santa Fe, or go to Sedona. I wasn't sure. But because of the ongoing issues with Luna, my van, starting fine in the morning and then not being able to turn her off unless I want to be stuck somewhere for hours on end, I decided I shouldn't travel any further east. So that was Plan A. I had to scrap it. Plan B then was to head back towards the West Coast and do it slowly, because I didn't have to be back in Canada until February 20th. And I thought I would just make my way up the old Pacific Coast Highway, which is so beautiful, so picturesque. Just take my time and get some lovely video to show you. So I started Plan B. I hit really heavy rain the day after I left Joshua Tree. That was the morning of February 2nd. Really heavy rain, and by the time I got into San Bernardino, into an area called Rialto, it was raining really hard, and I just pulled into a Cracker Barrel. Now here I want to make a point. Everybody thinks you can stay at Cracker Barrels anywhere, and I went in and had dinner, but just to double check, I asked the manager if that was okay if I stayed. And he said they didn't mind at all, but the police didn't like it, and they had told them that they were going to start ticketing people. Anyway, I took my chances that night, and all was well. Carried on the next day and hit more heavy rain, and but made my way to Santa Barbara. And by the time I got there, the sun was shining. It was quite warm. And I went to a lovely little street called Messa Lane in Santa Barbara. And at the bottom of the street are the Messa Lane steps. And there are about 240, I think, mainly wooden steps that go all the way down to the beach. So I carried Charlie down the stairs to the beach. It was lovely down there. I saw a young surfer come down the stairs, and I took film of him going out into the waves and heading out into the surf. That was one of the lost videos. And made my way back up the stairs. I had to rest 3 times on the way back up. They were really steep. And 2 days later, I could hardly walk. My calf muscles were so sore, but it was worth going down there. I had heard that there was an atmospheric river coming, some really heavy rain, and that doesn't bother me. I'm from Vancouver in Canada. We get an awful lot of rain here. I'm used to driving in that. But along with that report was a report for really high winds, and they were suggesting anyone in a taller vehicle sort of hunker down, don't go anywhere. And I thought to myself, okay, that doesn't sound good. I think maybe I'd better head back away from the coast again, head back inland, back the way I had just come. So a funny thing happened. Part of the reason that I wanted to get home now was because in Quartzite, I have a hereditary hearing condition and had surgeries, 3 surgeries on my ears when I was in my 20s. And so I have hearing aids. I can hear, but without them in, sometimes it sounds a little bit like I'm in a Charlie Brown cartoon where when you hear the adults speaking, they're just going wah, 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 wah. You can't really make out what they're saying. So it's a little bit like that. So that was becoming a bit of an issue for me. I actually, my hearing aid, one of them completely broke in two. It broke in two. I tried to duct tape it back together, but that didn't work. So no hearing aids. Then I'm in Santa Barbara. And what happens? My glasses broke in half. The lens popped out and I had a piece in each hand. And so, and a storm was coming and I had to do a fair bit of driving. Luckily, my sunglasses are prescription. And so I was able to get by with my sunglasses. But I called my daughter and was telling her, and we were killing ourselves laughing. She said, "Oh my God, Mom, you're blind, you're deaf, you're driving in the dark in the rain and windstorm trying to get home." I mean, we had to laugh. It was just so ridiculous. I thought, what else? What else could possibly happen? Anyway, as soon as I got somewhere away from the coast, I stopped and bought some Gorilla Glue and I glued my glasses back together. So they were good from then on. But yeah, so we headed back in towards the center of California. I arrived in Bakersfield and I thought that I would just stay there for the night. So I had turned off Luna and then found out that I was still in the high wind zone. And so I thought, well, I should really keep going a little bit further north and get out of the warning area. Well, of course, Luna wouldn't start because I thought I was staying the night there. So 3 hours later, I was able to start her. And by the time I made it a couple of hours further north, it was dark. I was really tired, pulled into a Walmart, and I stayed for 2 nights in Sacramento. And I was looking at the weather constantly, and the next morning was planning on moving on. But I found out that all 3 of the routes that I could take had flood warnings. And so I thought, okay, I'm really tired from all the driving, and I had pulled a bit of a muscle in my back area here. I think it was because near Sacramento, it's such a wide open space on each side of the highway that the wind was really buffeting Luna around, and I was really having to steer, hold on tight. And I think it just strained the muscle in my back to the point where I was almost in tears. It hurt so much. But you've got to persevere, right? You've got to keep going. So on that stretch of highway, it was a bit of a funny story. I ended up coming up behind a pickup truck that had a small trailer on it. And on the trailer, it's quite a shallow trailer, there were 3 porta potties. and the trailer behind the pickup truck was weaving back and forth like this, and the porta potties were going like that. So luckily it was about a 3 or 4 lane highway, I think, and I moved over as far as I could to get past it. I didn't want to be stuck behind the porta potties like that. Yes, I ended up staying in Sacramento at the Walmart for 2 nights. And the next morning when I checked, there was one route that was clear from any warnings, and that was Route 90 North to 20 West, and then onto the old Pacific Coast Highway. And so I decided to head in that direction. So that was plan C, just to get back across. It would bring me up high enough or far enough north that I would be past the storms that were hitting California, because it was in a state of emergency at that point. It was really quite awful what was happening there. And even being further inland like I had been, I was seeing evidence of flooding and the damage from high winds, even inland. I saw orchards that looked like they were growing in lakes. There were large trees that had fallen the day before. When I had stayed put, they had fallen and had been chainsawed and bulldozed to the side of the road. They obviously fell into the road. I could see where flash floods had come across and left red soil across the road, or there had been rock slides had come down, just small ones, but there was evidence of it everywhere. So I was really zigzagging back and forth across California, trying to make my way north and get home. Once I was on Route 20 West, it's a lesser highway, and I often do like to take them. One thing I would suggest, though, if you like more scenic, quieter routes when you're traveling, make sure that you fill up with gas before you take them, because sometimes gas stations are few and far between. It was such a pretty route. It was really just lovely, the scenery. And I was driving alongside a lake, a huge lake that I'd never heard of before. It's called Clear Lake. And the thing about being on this lesser highway was there were a lot of little towns along the side of the lake that were so nostalgic for me. It was like taking a drive back into the 50s and 60s when I was a kid, and on vacation with my parents, these little lakeside towns that had quaint motels with cute names, and small mom and pop businesses, and lakeside cottages that look like they'd been there for many, many years. I made it to Eureka and had planned on staying there for the night. Went to a Costco, but for some reason felt really, really uncomfortable and just kept going north. Stayed at a rest stop right around where the Redwoods were starting. And oh my goodness, the Redwoods. And of course, I couldn't stop at any of the picturesque places. I went past one sign that said Grandfather Redwood, and I couldn't stop because I knew I'd be stuck there for hours. So I carried on and drove through the Redwoods. The route is gorgeous as you go through the Redwoods and as you get towards Oregon. And there's a real raw beauty of ocean waves crashing against rocks and tall moss-covered trees. And I even saw at one point a herd of elk in a field very close to the ocean. Just beautiful. But the route is it's a very, very windy highway. I remember taking that highway on on my honeymoon over 50 years ago, and getting a little bit car sick as we were driving down this windy coast highway. There was a lot of rain still, and fog even, because that part of Northern California and Southern Oregon, it does get a lot of fog. As I got further north into Oregon, of course, there are the sand dunes, and I couldn't stop at those either. They're quite amazing. They go on for many, many miles. You can rent ATVs and things like that to go out on them. And some of them are like several stories high. You drive by on the highway and they're towering above. So one thing that I definitely want to do, especially because I've lost my footage, I can't show you what it looked like. I do want to go down that route again. And I think next year I will probably go back to the WRTR, and I will take my time and I will go south down that route, which will be even prettier because I'll be on the side of the road that's closer to the ocean. I had decided I would, from that rest stop I had stayed at, I would go all the way to Eugene, Oregon, and from there I would get on the I-5 and just book it home. So that sort of was plan C, was just to get home as quick as I could those last few days. From Eugene, Oregon, it was going to take me about 6.5 hours to get home. And I don't know how, but when I was on the I-5, I completely missed Seattle. Now, I've been through there so many times. I ended up, instead of on I-5, I ended up on 405 and went kilometers or miles out of my way before I got back onto the I-5. And by then I was already past Seattle. So I miss Seattle. Well, but I got home on February 8th. I arrived about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. My granddaughters came out. I arrived at my daughter and son-in-law's house. My granddaughters came out, gave me a hug. My daughter was making a big pot of soup. I had dinner with them, and then I went out into Luna and crashed in my comfy bed. And I stayed there for 2 days. Not in bed the whole time, but basically when I got back, I imploded. I was so tired. But even though the trip home was a bit harrowing, oh, I'm so glad I went on that trip. You know, every time I do one of these longer trips, it changes me somehow. And after meeting the community that I met down there, the plan is that I would really like to create community in Canada, because as I mentioned to Bob Wells on his channel, I find that in Canada so far, nomad life has been quite solitary, and I'd like to try and change that. It just came to me as I was in Quartzite and seeing how helpful the nomad community is. So I'm going to try and do that. One of the things that Bob was going to mention on his channel, or he did mention, was that I have an event coming up in August of this year. It's going to be in the interior of BC, and it is a camping weekend, the Boulder Women Camping Weekend and Workshop. And it's 2 nights and 3 days in a lovely orchard, my friend's lovely orchard. And if you think you might be interested in coming to that and meeting some other women, I'm sorry guys, this event's women only, and there is a charge for this particular weekend, because there is a workshop involved, and we're going to do a wine and cheese meet and greet and all kinds of things. So, but I am planning in the future, I'm going to try and arrange some meetups or some events that will be free to people like they do with the RTR. But that's going to take time to try and get something like that going. So if anyone has any ideas, or, you know, please in the comments let me know. Or you can reach me. There is an email address at ireneharlow.com, which is where the event is posted on the events page. So check that out. I would love to meet some of you subscribers this coming August. That would be wonderful. And to get some community happening in Canada as well as in the United States. Americans are welcome too, so come on up and see us. I'm going to leave it here for now. Wherever you are in this incredibly beautiful world of ours, I hope you're having a lovely, lovely day. And I'm going to say bye-bye for now.